One of my favorite subjects in high school and my major in college for a time was history. It's now history again as I've gone back to school, and if you read my blog, you'll probably hear more about that as I'm starting Monday with my first math class in 30 some odd years. Okay, might be asking for some help from you guys. But one of my favorite subjects, and one of the things that drove me as an actress, I loved playing period stuff. I loved getting a chance to live some other time, some other place. But the first question I would ask myself, and I have just recently wrote this blog post up so you can read about it and get some links to some books, is I would ask myself, where am I bound? And I don't mean where am I going, but as a woman playing a woman, in any period in history, there were strictures, social ideas of how a woman should dress. Definitely there were ideas about how a woman should behave, but there were ideas about how a woman should dress and what part of her would be restrained by that clothing. So we've got corsets, but along with corsets, which corsets are interesting. Corsets squeeze your waist, right? But they make you breathe up in your chest. So you're always in this fight or flight panic breath, like a sprinter, and not in this deep-seated, yogic breath, singer, opera singer, actor on a stage, deep, low breath that is stabilizing. So you're breathing up here, which of course makes your chest rise, which we don't even need to go into where that goes. And you can't move very well. And then along with those times, there were hoop skirts. There were those, I think they were called panniers or something. They went out to the side in the 1700s. There's a great photograph from Outlander on the blog article, Writing Tip, Where Are You Bound? That talks about this. And if you think about what those items of women's clothing made them do, it gives you a physicality for your character. There is a way they can move. There are things they can and cannot do in those vestments. And you have to take it into consideration when you're writing someone. You can't have a woman in the 1930s wearing a girdle sprinting. It's awkward. Now, the first time and only time I have worn an authentic 1930s girdle was when I was in college doing a play by David Mamet called The Water Engine. And we had this fantastic costumer, and at that time, the vintage stores in Pasadena and Southern California were phenomenal. And he found us these great vintage dresses, and he found us vintage underwear. Okay, girdles. Girdles make you walk a line. You are constantly putting one foot in front of the other, and it makes your hips swing side to side, and you can't just take off and run because the girdles in the 30s came down to just above your knees, so you're really kind of narrowed and tightened. And it makes you move and hold yourself differently. A corset makes you move and hold yourself differently. You sit up straight. You stand up straight. I did one show where I had a corset on, a corseted costume. So they didn't give me a corset and a costume. They built it into my costume. And I had a scene where I was sitting at a table, and when my back started to bug me, all I had to do was slump like that, and my whole spine would crack into place. There were also bustles, made sitting down interesting. Hoop skirts makes sitting down interesting. If you don't want to flash everybody around you, you have to make sure you sit in the right way. Certain kinds of shoes make you stand in a certain manner. And it's all something that you have to take into account when you're playing someone from another period, but you need to take it into account when you're writing someone from another period. I always think that if I lived in the time of, the Wild West, I would probably have lived my life in my husband's pants and worn my dresses on Sundays, because it just doesn't make sense to go out plowing a field, picking and planting in long skirts. That's my thought. Anyway, check out the blog post, Writing Tip, Where Are You Bound? For some great links to some awesome books and a great article written about the Outlander costume department. and have a look. Thanks.